Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. I remember this being one of my first books that I ever read, and I really enjoyed this book. This book was something that my dad proposed that I read because it was read to him when he was little, and he really liked it. I used to connect with the main character and his wild and adventurous spirit, which is another reason why this book is so close to me. I like the thought of drifting off to far-off places and running with wild beasts. Crazy, I know. Also, I thought this book was funny, and as a little kid, I liked to laugh. The Pooh Bear Books by Ernest H. Shepard. The reason I chose these books is because this is the first book series I remember reading and really enjoying. These books were the building blocks to my path to become a book connoisseur and a lover of reading. I loved to read the adventures that Pooh and his friends would go on, and it made reading a fun experience for me from an early age. The Bee Book. Even though I don't remember anything about the plot of this book or its actual name, it was the first big chapter book that I read, and I actually really enjoyed this book. It interested me a lot because I had a fixation with bees when I was younger, and it combined fiction with actual facts. This book launched my elementary reading career, and the following year I was put into Gifted and Talented reading group. The Giver by Lois Lowry. My favorite dystopian society book. This is a book that I recently finished and I fell in love with. My mom had been trying to get me to read it for years, and I kept declining and saying it was dated and boring and it was old and that I wouldn't like it. But in reality, it was an awesome book. It had so many interesting concepts to it, and it always kept me wanting to read more. I love fiction books. I'm also currently on the third book of the trilogy. Paper Towns by John Green. This book made me so angry. I was expecting a great ending to the story because the events leading up to it were so good and made me want to keep reading to know what happens next. This book ended in such a disappointing way, but the more I thought about it, the more I understood it and why the author chose to end it this way, and it made me realize that books don't always end how you want or how you expect them to. Even so, this book really, really made me angry, and it was a really big letdown. But even so, I still accept it, and it was an okay book. Into the Wild by John Krakauer. This is a book that speaks of adventure and wild spirits. I have a deep connection to this book, and I feel like I can really connect and relate to the main character. I wasn't sure if I would really like this book because it was something that I was reading for school, and it was nonfiction, which usually isn't a genre that I would choose for myself. But I ended up enjoying it a lot, and it made me question a lot of things in life, and my plan for life. Even though the story of one man's life ended in tragedy, and he ended up dying, I still find it inspiring because he reached his goals and risked everything. And I feel that's all you can ask from life. Do what you want and try to find happiness. Wonder by R.J. Palicio. Reading this book opened my eyes. This book taught me the cliche of not judging a book by its cover. It showed me that no matter what someone appears to be, doesn't always mean that they're the same on the inside. This is an inspiring book that covers topics that some people don't know how to bring up or ask people about, like a face deformation or an amputated leg or a birth mutation. But just because people are different doesn't mean they are handicapped or dumb or ugly. It just means that they have different experiences and have gone through different things than you have. But that doesn't mean they should be treated any differently or with any less respect. They are human beings, and should be treated the same way as everybody else. And this book really taught me that important lesson and made me think a lot more before I judge somebody. Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell. Now this book is a book that I instantly fell in love with and could not get enough of, and I still cannot get enough of this book. This book is funny and it's lighthearted and it cracks jokes, but also some parts of it are deep and emotional and hard, but that's life. It has its ups and downs, but things always turn out okay in the end, somehow. This book made me emotional in the course of reading it, and even though I didn't have much in common with these characters, I liked the feeling of putting myself in a different life and almost comparing myself to people and having a different perspective.